Everyone wants to go D1, but that D1 or bust mentality might actually be hurting your chances of playing college soccer altogether. Too many athletes are fishing for offers, overlooking great opportunities, and failing to self assess where they actually fit. So today I've got Don Williams, who's coached at every level from NAIA, NCAA to USL, and now leads operations at Sports Recruiting USA. If you're serious at playing at the next level, you need to listen to this. And although Don is an expert in soccer, many of you need to hear this regardless of your sport. So, Don, thanks for joining us today.
Hey, Nick, how are you, man? Thanks for having me on again.
Yeah, of course. No, I mean, and it's great to have you back on. You have a lot of insights and a lot of that expert approach as a coach, but also now on the recruiting side too. So I know you're gonna open some eyes today.
I hope so. And like you were saying in the introduction, this applies to virtually every sport. There's different levels of athletes, but this applies to everything in life, right? Not everybody is going to be, if you're an artist, not everybody is going to be a Van Gogh, right? Or a Rembrandt, right? Or a Michelangelo. Not everybody is going to be the most famous and best of whatever you do in the world, but it doesn't mean that you can't do what you love and have a passion for it and be successful at it. But, it's great to have goals and it's great to have role models, but we also have to be realistic about what God gave us and how we're built and what we're made for and how we're accomplishing, and also be highly aware of and honest with ourselves about what really, really is important to us as an individual.
Yeah. And I think a lot of it, yeah, it's what is God has given us. I really like that piece because it's a lot of self-reflection, I think. And for parents, it's a lot of honest reflection with your athletes and your kids in general of like, hey, where do you actually fit? And so I think that'll be definitely a key piece that we'll highlight today.
Yeah, well, look, it is a lot of this is just genetics. I mean, I don't care how many days that I worked out or how well I ate, and how many days I could have sprinted every day of my life, and I was never going to beat Usain Bolt. No matter what I did, no matter how many hills I ran, no matter how many sprints I ran, no matter, like I say, no matter how I took care of my body, I wasn't built with the same body type as Usain Bolt. And I was never going to beat him in a sprint if that's what I was doing. Right. And it's so, yeah, we just have to look at genetics too. If mom and dad were both world-class athletes, like literally world-class, made livings at it, then I've got a better shot.
Yeah.
If only dad was and mom, couldn't walk and chew gum at the same time, or vice versa. Mom was a world-class athlete and dad could barely run down the street, then I've cut my chances down genetically. And if neither of my parents and nobody in my family has ever been an athlete, and everybody was overweight and everybody had issues, that some of it might be nutritional, but a lot of it's going to be genetics, right? So all of that needs to be taken into account. And I think a lot of people skirt right past the genetic issue to, if I work hard enough, if I do everything right, I'm going to make it to the NFL or the NBA or Major League Baseball or MLS or whatever it is, playing the EPL, just because I work hard enough. You can do everything right and be perfect in everything you do and still not have what it takes genetically to make it at the highest levels. And it's just the way it is. So I think knowing who we are and being realistic about it, and then saying, okay, this is the hand that I've been dealt with. Now I'm going to try to maximize that. I just want to see how good I can be, and then the cards will fall where the cards will fall, and they'll be what they are. At the end of the day, it's, if I do everything right and I'm a superstar and I'm the best kid in my town and the best kid in my state and the best kid in my region and one of the top 2 or 3 kids in the country, like, that doesn't go unnoticed. The word gets out there very quickly when somebody's a super spectacular, generational athlete. That person doesn't get unnoticed. You don't have to even go on social media and promote yourself or anything. People will know if you're a generational athlete. But unfortunately, a lot of us people in the world are bang on average. We're fine. We work really hard at what we do, and there's a place for us in college. Our rest of our lives are not going to be spent making money in that sport. Unless we're a coach, then maybe. Anybody who's coached knows that coaches don't make diddly squat. You do it because you love it, not because you're going to be a multimillionaire.
Yeah. So I do want to actually highlight on that too. You talk about maximizing your potential, and this is something like I try to really stress with my athletes and with athletes I speak to in general. And it's like, you can have that D1 mindset in a sense, but you also have, like, in terms of, you want to be the best, you want to max out who you are, you want to be the best version of you, but also, like, I guess, where is it, like, when should we know where our cards are falling? Like, we can maximize, do everything we can, but is there a certain age or a certain point where you feel like this is where you should have a pretty good idea of where you're going to fall?
Yeah, man, this is a hard one because I think these are habits that we build for life. Okay. That's truly what I believe, that if sports are what you love, right? Or if the violin is what you love, or like I said, if art is what you love, or dancing, or computer video games, whatever. If this is your passion, this is what you want to be, and this is what you want to do, and you think you want to get into this thing and you really want to dig deep into it, the habits that you build in the pursuit of being excellent in that thing are habits that will carry you forward to the rest of your life. It's like, just because I liked basketball at 12 doesn't mean I have to like basketball at 14. Maybe I'm into soccer now, or maybe I'm into something else, right? And that's okay. But while I'm in that thing, I want to be the best that I can be at that thing. When I picked up windsurfing many, many years ago, like, I got into windsurfing, and I was, reading magazines, and I was, trying to go out and practice different types of starts, water starts, is not just land starts, but water starts, and all different kinds of ways to do it. And same thing with skiing, when I was into skiing, I was trying to try different things, and I was just really into it. And I was reading articles about it and just getting into it. And I think that for me was born out of sports, just in general. I know those are sports, but I'm just saying my early relationships with sports early on in my life, and the way that I've always looked at things and looked at life, have to do with just trying to be the best you can at that thing. And then, like I said, the cards will fall where they may. I think one of the concerns that I have with the way sports are viewed nowadays, especially with social media, is that we're comparing ourselves to other people and what other people accomplish, right? So if I'm on a team with somebody and 3 or 4 other players are talking, literally they're in relationships with Division I college coaches, the best 2 players on my team are talking to Notre Dame and Cal Berkeley and Stanford, and it's like, it's hard not to look at that and go, well, why shouldn't I be talking to them? I'm on the same team as them. I start with them. And I don't know why it's become so difficult to look at that athlete and go, they're 6'4", the genetic freaks. Look at their parents, look at the genetics, look what they're made of, and look at their talent, and look at their speed, and look at their leaping ability. And, when we run together, I can never beat them. I've tried, I can't, and nobody can out jump them, and nobody can. And just to look at that and go, well, they're different than me. They're built different. They are different. I'm just going to be the best that I can be against me. Like, can I be better than I was yesterday? Right. And then tomorrow, can I be better than that? And then better than that. So it's not, can I be better than them? Because if I compare myself to Michael Jordan, I can't take off from the free throw line and slam dunk. So I'm going to be a failure. But can I get close to the rim, and can I lay the ball into the rim, and then can I get my fingers over the rim? And so maybe eventually I can dunk the ball, but I can't take off from the free throw line and dunk the ball, right? And if I can do it from here, then can I slowly increase my progress every day, right? Can I get a little bit better at what I'm doing every day? And in small steps over time, you can get big progress over time. But I think what happens is a lot of people, when progress is incremental, it can almost be discouraging. And I think this gets into your field, nutrition. If I'm not at the strength that I want to be, and I'm not eating the right things, I look at myself over, I've been doing this for a month and I don't see a lot of change. is the wrong way to look at it. It should be like, what's it going to look like in a year or 2 years? We should be looking at it a little longer term. I don't think that, to answer your question, I don't think that we should ever look at it that way. I think we should look at it as, I'm going to do everything right that I need to do all of the time. And then what I end up being is what I end up being. But at least regret, right? Regret, I woulda, I coulda, I shoulda, right? I think the three saddest words that you can say is coulda, woulda, shoulda, because those are things you're saying that I could have controlled something and I didn't bother controlling it. And then what would have happened had I controlled it? What could I have been had I controlled it, right? What should have happened to my life and my career or whatever I'm looking at had I actually controlled it? And controlling the controllables, whatever's controllable in your life, is what we should be focusing on, not comparing ourselves to others, even making a judgment about myself. I can't do this and I can't do that. That's BS to say I can't. It's like, I can't yet. I'm going to keep trying, and then maybe I never get there. But if you want to land on the moon, and at least you shoot for, if you want to land on Mars rather, and at least you shoot for it, and you end up landing on the moon, you still end up someplace that almost no human being has ever been, right? You end up in a higher and better place. I think my son was a great example of this. He was, I've said this in a lot of podcasts, and I guess he can hear it. It's fine. I just don't, I feel a little bit bad. No matter how hard he worked, he was cursed with our family's genetics. So he's one of those kids that did everything right. Left the house at 5 a.m., juggling the ball, going down to the school, knocking the ball against the wall before school, coming home, trying to eat right, running, lifting weights after practice and putting in the extra time and traveling 2 and 3 hours to find the better teams to play on, trying to shoot for being a professional. At 10 years old, he said, I want to play professionally in England. And it's like, yeah, right. Okay. Well, then here's the things you have to do. And he went and played in England, not at a professional level, but at a lower level, semi-professional level, and then played Division I. And of his class, of the kids that he graduated with in soccer, he was the only kid playing Division I. And it's because he worked so hard that he was able to get extra out of himself. But even the level that he was playing at wasn't the highest level of Division I. It was one of the lower levels. And when he tried to play professionally, he would always end up, I made it I'm 3 days, 4 or 5 days, 8 days of a trial, and then they sent me home. That's it. I couldn't quite make it. But at least he accomplished something, and now he's a college soccer coach, right? This is all he ever wanted to do. He's just really passionate about the game and just loves it. And I think I often think of him as an example of somebody who was never going to probably make it. He was never going to make it to the professional highest level, play in the Premier League, that type of thing. He just didn't have it, okay? But when you shoot for that, at least you end up higher level than anybody else maybe in your area or in your school or in your region. And so when should you decide that you can or can't? Look, the market, if you're doing everything right, Nick, and you're playing in the right tournaments and events and are out there, the marketplace will end up determining where you belong. If you're out there at tournaments and events and there's Division I coaches from Stanford to Notre Dame to, Virginia and Texas and whatever on down. And then there's Division II coaches there, and there's Division III coaches there, and there's NAIA coaches there, and there's JC coaches there, junior college. And the only ones ever reaching out to you are the lower level Division III or NAIAs or JCs or D2s, and none of the Stanfords, Notre Dames are ever reaching out to you. The marketplace is telling you where you belong, right? Yeah. The marketplace will always speak to where an athlete belongs at the end of the day.
Yeah. So two big things I really want to pull from the athletes there is, number one, what you just said of like the marketplace will speak. So, I mean, I like that. You think about, if you're applying everywhere or you're showcasing, you're doing all the things, and these are the schools, these are the types of schools or the level of school, whatever, that are reaching out to you, then it's like, okay, like that's my fit. The other piece I want to draw out is with your son, like, he left everything on the table, and I'm sure, like, if you were to ask him, he would feel that, like, no regrets. He left everything on the field, and so yes, obviously he still probably wanted to play pro, but he left everything on the field. And do you feel like he feels satisfied with the work that he put in?
Yeah, I think so. We'd have to ask him, but and he may look back and say, well, maybe I could have. I would say what he knows now, he probably would say maybe nutrition could have a little bit have been better. I would say that because I'm not sure how much we paid attention to that as a family. And I know when he was in England, he was eating beans on toast. I mean, it's like what do I need to just put in my body? I just need to get. I need to eat.
Yeah.
I'm tired. I'm hungry. I need to go to bed. It's easy. It's quick. So I would say that's one area. But overall, he was studying sports psychology and he was with the sports nutrition, sports conditioning specialist, and he was doing everything that he thought that we knew of to do. And that's what I would say. You don't want those regrets of saying, I could have done all these different things and I should have done all these different things. And I really didn't even try that hard. And that's, man, that's the sad part is I think a lot of athletes that I observe out there in the world that I work in, right? When I'm at tournaments, I see what they're eating, man. They're not even trying. They're not
Mhm.
even remotely trying to get it right. They're eating bags of gummy worms and snow cones, and they're just eating chips and just sodas, drinking sodas, and chugging Red Bulls all the time. It's like, man, you're not even remotely trying. Sleep, right? Athletes want to play pro, and that you're on your phone till 2 a.m, and then you got to get up at 7. You're getting 5-6 hours sleep a day. You're not even trying, not even remotely trying. And the amount of information out there for athletes these days with, dude, just go into Grok or just go into Chat GBT and
Yep.
just throw something in there into AI, and it's going to give you everything that you could think of about that subject. It's not like the information is not available. It's not like you have to go down to the library, search through the card catalog, try to find a book, check it out, read it quickly because it's got to be back in a week. The stuff that we had to go through when I was growing up, it's not like that. All the information is out there with podcasts and with social media and with AI and search engines. You can find anything you want on any subject and studies on it if you're interested. So, I mean, that's the thing with today's athlete is there's more resources available to them at their fingertips, literally with their phones, than any other generation in history. There's no excuse for today's athlete for not doing the right thing.
Yeah, I mean, even if you look at like even my generation, like I graduated a little over 10 years ago, and it's even looking at the number of facilities that are out there and the social media. Like we had Facebook, but we kind of had Instagram. It was growing, but it wasn't to the level it is now. And again, there's just so many easy access things. And even if you look at social media now, like social media and TikTok was the king of this, or is the king of this, is they're going to feed you what you want it to feed you. So if you look for negative things, it's going to look for negative things. If you're looking for funny cat videos, it's going to give you more funny cat video. Like it's going to give you what you want. And so if you want more training videos, you want more performance focused videos, then search for them and continue to watch those and feed those into your brain, because again, I mean, that's going to serve you a lot more. Doesn't mean you don't watch the funny videos for a little lightheartedness from time to time, but like look at what you're feeding yourself, both with your food, but also what you're feeding your mind. I think
Dang, that's a great point. That just in my head popped up that if some athlete said, come and mentor me, first thing I'm going to do is say, open up your socials. I want to see what pops up in your timeline because that's the stuff you're interested in, and you got to change that, right? You got to, I mean, an athlete's timeline that's like dead serious. I am going to make this happen no matter what, and this is my goal. Their timeline should be full of, if you're a baseball player, should be full of, hitting tutorials, right? And throwing stuff and nutrition and, all of that. It should be full of athlete stuff. When I open up my Instagram, it's full of fishing, right? That's what I do my spare time. I don't golf, so there's no golf stuff in there. That's a really good point, Nick. And I think that's, man, for other adults that might be listening to this, it's like, yeah, ask your athletes to open up their socials and see what pops up in their algos,
Yeah.
right? In their algorithms. That's a great point.
No, I mean, it's huge. Like, I think about, even right now, like, again, it's so easy for that algorithm to change, but it's something where, again, you can self-correct. If you start going down a rabbit hole that like messes up your feed, then go back and be like, okay, well, like, let me start searching those videos again, or let me click on those guys that I follow, those girls that I follow, whatever, to reprogram it. Basically, it's seriously like, and it's not just TikTok, Instagram starting to do it more. Social media is less and less about your socialness. It's more about I forget what I literally just read this in the book last night. But it's less about social and more about consumption. It's more about what do you want to see. It's basically like TV. It's like, what do you want to watch versus are you watching your friends and stuff. You're less and less you're seeing your friends stuff unless those are the things you're engaging with. But
Yeah, no, it's true. It's true. Yeah, good point.
so one thing I do want to ask though around this is how often should athletes be assessing these things of, okay, like the nutrition, you see holes in their nutrition, or essentially going back, when should they know to look and be like, all right, what am I missing? What am I missing stuff in my training, nutrition, my mindset? Like how can we self-reflect sooner rather than later? Because I feel like a lot of people, they wait until it's too late and they're like, crap, like I'm senior, I don't have many options now because I didn't do these things. Like, how can we instill more of that self-assessment?
Yeah, well, there's a concept that I've been preaching for years, for 20, 30 years to my athletes. It's like, if I have literally heard athletes where I give them a hard time. It's like, why are you eating like that? You know, why aren't you in the gym more? You don't really like to lift weights. I notice when you go in the gym, you just kind of, well, look, you're talking to me like I'm getting paid to do this, like I'm a pro. I'm not. Look, if I ever sign a pro contract, then I'll get paid to do it and I'll behave like a pro. Well, then you'll never be a pro.
Mhm.
You have to act like you're a professional now. You should be looking at, what does, if you're a striker and you should be saying, what does Mo Salah do? I'm going to Google what Mo Salah does. What does he eat? How does he work out? What are his training? I'm going to see if I can try to find videos of him training, right? If I'm a goalkeeper, right? I'm picking my heroes, right? And I'm looking at what do they do? What do goalkeepers do? What is the goalkeeper coach for that club of my hero? What do they do, right? And those are the things that I'm going to be doing, right? If I need to start thinking like, acting like I'm a pro if I think I want to be a pro, otherwise I'm never going to be a pro. You can't wait till you're 22 years old and then go, okay, now I'm graduated college and it's time to go try for professional teams. I wonder what pros do. And I'll start acting like that now. It's going to be too late. So it's something that has to happen with your passion. Like I said, when my son was 10 years old, he came to us and said, I want to play in England. So, first thing I did was brought him down to one of the kids that I coached in high school, and I go spend time with George. George was, and my son was a goalkeeper. He wasn't a field player, but it doesn't matter. If you play with soccer, you play with your feet, right? Goalkeeper gets to use their hands, sure, but that's something. I was a goalkeeper coach. I could always solve that issue. But he'd hang around with George Derrick, and George was a master at juggling. So he'd show Brad a trick, and then Brad would work on it, and he'd figure out that trick, right? And he'd figure out the rhythms and the patterns and how to play with his feet. And so when he finally graduated high school and went over to England, he was playing keepy-uppy and doing tricks with all the field players as a goalkeeper. And that impressed the staff that he was better than, and he was with goalkeepers that had played for Newcastle's youth academy in England, and he was better than them with his foot skills, right? So when it came time to fitness and the fitness test, the team goes and runs their first fitness test, and he finishes third, better than most of the field players, because he had already been working on those things when he was 10, 11, 12, 13. 14, 15, 16, 17. It took 10 years or 8 years basically to prep for that one moment. So it's a daily, what can I do better tomorrow than I did today? Don't beat yourself up over it. Hey, yesterday I ate like crap, and yesterday I was on my phone too late, right? And okay, then tomorrow I'm going to do it differently. I'm going to try to get to, shut off my phone at least half an hour and all screens half an hour before bedtime. You're going to sleep better.
Yeah.
Okay. Studies have shown this, right? You're going to go to sleep faster. You're going to sleep deeper. Okay. So it's a matter of, it's a daily assessment. I don't think you should be, okay, I'm going to do what I do now for 6 months and then go reassess it every 6 months. No, I think it's a daily assessment. What can I do today that I didn't do yesterday?
Yeah. No, that's so huge. Like that's where, a lot of people I listen to, they talk about, at the end of each day looking at, hey, what went well today, and then what am I going to work on tomorrow? And that's something that my coach incorporates. Like I even have my planner right here that I write that 3 things that are going well, 3 things that I accomplished today, 3 things that I'm going to work on tomorrow. And, and those are things that it points me back to what is it that I'm trying to accomplish. And I mean, I set it out for the week. That's actually on my whiteboard behind me. That's my 7 goals for the week. Those are the things I'm working on. Some of them are daily things. Some of them are specific things I've got to accomplish. And I highly recommend, my thing with athletes is get a whiteboard. It doesn't have to be that big. It could even be just like a little, like one you stick on a fridge size, but you stick that on there and just, hey, what are the things I'm working on? It's an easy erase. It's an easy thing. And that every time you check those boxes off, it's satisfying. So but it allows you to do more of that self-reflection and continue to move, especially if, again, you want to be a great athlete. Like, leave everything on the table, because our world is full of people with regrets, and there's, at least on every team, there's at least one parent, and you can tell by how they engage and how they act with their athletes. There's at least one parent who has regrets about the effort that they put into their sports. And they're usually, borderline the loudest ones, or they might have certain tendencies, but I think it's some of the loud ones are just fantastic parents, and they're very supportive. But that's an important thing, I think, too, is like you said, like leaving everything on the field, doing those daily assessments, I think is huge. So as we start to wrap up this podcast, I'll be honest, went completely different way than I expected, but I think it was awesome. I really want to make sure, because you have so much good content that you post on Twitter and on all the socials, and I want to make sure, if there's really 3 big things that you really want to stress to the athletes who are trying to get recruited, what would be those 3 key pieces of advice?
Well, I think we've covered the first bit of advice, and that's, look, so in soccer, we talk about technical, tactical, physical, mental, but it applies to baseball and football and basketball. There's the technical pieces of your game. It applies to swimming, right? I don't know what they are, but when you watch the Olympics, they talk about technical swimmers. They're very technical swimmer, right? But then there's the tactics, right? Do you sprint out of the gate right away if it's a longer, if it's a 5,000 meter, versus the 50 meter, it's 2 different tactics, right? And it's the techniques of the blocks and how you get off. And it's that way for every sport, the technical, tactical, physical, and mental pieces. So if you want to be a top level athlete, you also have to be a student of your sport. Okay. So I think that's number 1. And we've kind of covered a lot of those pieces. The other one is this whole D1 and bust mentality, we call it, right? And what that means is, look, if I can't play D1, I'm not going to play at all. That's the bust part. I'm just not going to play at all. It's embarrassing. It's embarrassing for me that's embarrassing to play at a junior college. It's embarrassing to play at D3. That's embarrassing. That just means you don't love your sport. Let's face it. Okay. If you're willing to quit the sport that you say that you love so much, it's like, oh, coach, this is the most important thing to me. I really want to play at your school at Notre Dame. And if I can't play there, I'll just quit. It means you don't love your sport. I mean, go find some. And I have no problem with that, by the way. And by the way, I have no problem with the athletes that saying, I just want to play through high school. That's it. I'm just having fun playing. I didn't want to play in college. That doesn't mean you're a failure. It just means you don't want to play after high school. That's all it means. It means that something else in your life is going to pop in, or is coming in. That's Nick. That's why I don't like to. I'm not going to pick on it. We're talking about playing in college, and somebody, I won't even say what gender they were. Somebody, because I don't want to embarrass this person or their parents. Maybe they'll listen to this. It was their parents. I know it was their parents. A 10-year-old saying, posted a video of himself saying, am I going to make it in college? 10 years old. I have no idea. You haven't even hit puberty yet. Not just physically, but puberty changes the way that you look at the world, right? Haven't started dating yet. Haven't started driving yet. Haven't got your first job yet. Haven't been introduced for, self-consciousness. Like my first memories are about 5, 6 years old, as an adult. So, you for 5 years, you've been conscious of being able to not just yourself, right? To begin growing to bigger the world for 5 years, for Pete's sake. Let's wait till you're 15, 16 before we even know whether you're going to be able to, not be able to, but whether you're going to even want to, play in college. It's just insane that this parents just promoting the heck out of it. And it's like superstar, 9 years old, superstar, 10 years old, next Messi, 9 years old. It's like, stop it.
Yeah.
Stop it. This is utter craziness, insanity that this parents are pushing this child. So that's how you talk about pressure. When you start talking about a 9-year-old is going to be the next Lionel Messi at 9, that's insane. We are so bad as scouts around the world. We are so horrible at figuring out what 8, 9, 10-year-olds are going to be full out professionals. The statistics prove that we're horrible. If we were good at it, we would have an 80, 90% success rate. Like every time that I identify an 8-year-old or a 9-year-old, 8 out of 10 times I'm right, and they all become full out world-class professionals. We're so bad at it. And we're bad at it because there's so many variables between, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14 even, and 20, 21, 22. There's so many variables that can happen in a human being's life that can change their pathway, right? And interest is one of them. Just like, do I even really love it that much? And I can tell which ones love it because those are the ones that's all they talk about. Literally, that's all they do, right? They really don't do anything else. And they're sacrificing how much they're willing to sacrifice for what they do, because this is all they really want. That's how you know. So, but that doesn't happen till later. So this D1 or bust mentality that if I can't have this, then I'll just quit, means you don't really love it that much. So, but if you really do love your sport and it's okay to have D1 goals. It's great. I think you should have D1 goals and professional goals and all of those things. And if you're doing everything right, then you're doing everything right. But also understanding that, look, males can physically grow up until their early 20s, physically get taller, right? And definitely are going to get wider, bigger, stronger into their knees and even into their knees. And while females can change their body types too, typically we know how tall they're going to be, big they're going to be by 15, 16. And typically females don't shoot up 6 inches between 18 and 22, where men can do that quite often. So we're waiting to see what your overall body type is. And I hate talking about this in the soccer world because there's so much negativity around it, right? All college coaches care about, all pro coaches care about is how big you are and how strong you are. Well, yeah, because it's a major component of the game, as it is in every sport. It's a major component of every single sport in the history of the world, right? Your wingspan in swimming, is matters. If your arms are abnormally short, you're not going to be a world-class swimmer, right? You can't claw the water quite as well. If your hands are abnormally small, I'm guessing it's the reason why scuba divers wear fins on their feet. I'm guessing it makes you go faster, right? If your feet are bigger and wider, right? So I imagine that there's technical components to swimming too that have to do with your physical abilities and what you're born with. And I don't think soccer's any different, but it is all 4 components: technical, tactical, physical, and mental. And we're trying to get as close to 10 out of 10 in those areas as we possibly can when we're trying to identify an athlete. So, but if you love your sport and you really are passionate about your sport, you won't quit your sport, even if it means that Only a junior college coach is recruiting. My friend Andre Luciano talks about this a lot. Andre was recruited he was an undersized goalkeeper. He was an undersized goalkeeper coming out of high school. He's not that tall now. I don't know, he's 5'11" maybe. And he was skinny, he says, thin, and he's still got kind of a thin build, and nobody was recruiting him. The only coach that recruited him was a coach out of a brand new junior college in Arizona called Yavapai. And those that know soccer now know that Yavapai's won, I think, national championships at junior college and any other junior college. But at that time, it was a brand new program. And his coach, Mike Pantaleone, recruited him. And they ended up winning a national championship. And he was the national goalkeeper of the year. Well, Coach Yeagley at Indiana took notice and recruited him. And he was a starter for Indiana. And I think they made it to the Final Four while he was there. And it's because he didn't want to quit the sport. It's because he loved the sport. So those opportunities happened for him because he took the opportunity that was presented to him, and he made the most of that opportunity that was presented to him. You know, at the end of the day, at a certain point in every athlete's career, coming out of high school, when they're looking at playing in college, if that's the next goal, it's okay, of all of my opportunities on the table, maybe it's only one, but maybe it's multiples. This is the one that feels right to me. I don't think it's going to get any better to this. With our clients that we work with, I tell them at a certain point, you're going to say to yourself, or I'm going to say to you, it's not going to get any better than this one. It might get the same. You might get 5 more of the same, but this opportunity, it's not going to get better than that. Do you like the coach? Do you like the team? Do you like the area? Do you like the school? Do they have your major? Is it affordable to you? Can you live in this area of the country? Do you generally feel good about this? I do too. This is your best opportunity at this moment. If you still are, hell-bent on, I'm going to play Division I, and your best opportunity is this Division III or this NAIA or this junior college, and you still think, I'm better than that. I know I can play it wherever, Florida or Texas or Notre Dame or wherever, Kentucky, wherever. I know I can play there. Then go be an All-American. If you're a 2-time junior college All-American, you will get opportunities. I've got one of those players that I am helping right now. And she has had 15, 16, 17 Division I schools want to talk to her. Now, she doesn't want to move out of the state of California. So now her options are limited. But she's limiting those options. Those options are not limited to her. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
But she's a 2-time junior college All-American. So, and believe me, just popped up on my phone, a coach at a very good school saying, was she still looking? Is she still looking? So, what you put into it is what you get out of it, and how good you are and how good you prove yourself to be, not how good you say you are, but how good you prove yourself to be is how good you are, right? And you can say all you want, but if you are the 15th player coming off of your roster and you're in the team in your conference, that is the 5th place team in your conference, and your conference is ranked as the 7th best conference in the country, and you're playing in junior college, and you say, I want to play D1. Look, there's only, in soccer, there's, 212 men's teams, right? There's 348 women's team. Even if you consider that even if you say there's 30 players on a roster, and with some D1s, it's going to be limited to 28 this year. There's not that many opportunities available to you out there. Just not. It's not unlimited. There's basically 12,000 women and less than 10,000 men that are playing D1, and there's 500,000 kids playing soccer on the boys' side, and 500,000 roughly on the girls' side. A little less than that, 400,000, something like that. And then when you consider internationals, 37% of the men are internationals in college, right? Roughly 11, 12, 13%, something like that on the women's side are international. So coaches can literally talk to players from all over the world. And it's becoming increasingly difficult for kids to play soccer. in college at the Division I level. It's becoming increasingly difficult. But if you love your sport, there's Division II, and there's Division III, and there's NAIA, and there's USCAA, and there's NJCAA, and there's just all these different opportunities across the nation to continue to play the sport you love and get an education at the same time, because most of us probably aren't going to be good enough at our sport to make a living playing our sport. We're probably going to make a living based on, what we've studied after high school, somewhere in there. Or our education in college is going to help us, post high school is going to help us figure out what our career path is.
Yeah. So much good stuff in this episode. I'm really excited about this also when it releases too. But yeah, Donna, I just want to thank you for hopping on. Like there's so many things that athletes, parents, you guys can really draw from and be like, all right, this is the thing I need to work on, or this is the self-assessment, again, leaving everything on the table, really maximizing what your abilities are. And so, again, Don, thanks so much for joining today.
Thanks, Nick, for having me on. I appreciate it.
Of course. And to the listeners, as always, keep striving for greatness.